Good afternoon, everyone. Very first, thank you so much, each one of you, for joining for today's webinar. And in today's webinar, we are going to learn how we can create hybrid mobile applications using Icenium and Kendo UI Mobile. The agenda which we are going to follow today is that we'll first understand what is hybrid applications. Then we'll have an introduction on Icenium if you have not worked on that before, and then introduction on Kendo UI Mobile. So these three portions we will do very quickly. It would be purely a theoretical part. And then we will jump into the app architecture. We'll see that the app which we are going to create, we'll have a discussion on the architecture of that app. And then we'll do some demo. When I say we'll do some demo, we are going to write codes today. We'll be creating an end-to-end hybrid application in today's webinar. Before we proceed further, some information about upcoming webcast. We do have a webcast on ASP.NET MVC, Beta User Experience with Kendo UI, that is on 28th of February on the same time, that 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. On 7th March, we have webinar on creating applications for Nokia Lumia phones, especially that is Windows phone using Telerik RAD controls. And on 21st March, we do have a webinar on functional testing using Test Studio. If you want to know more about our upcoming webinars and the webinar which we play back in India time, in Indian time zone, etc., on the above webinar, above URL, you can get information about that. That is gnl.me Telerik India 2013 webinars. As of my introduction, my name is Dhananjay Kumar and I work as customer advocate for Telerik. I'm a Microsoft MVP, I'm a Mindcracker MVP. I do blogging on Microsoft technology, so you can read my blog on debugmode.net. I do a Telerik product specific blogging on telerikhelper.net. So if you have any query and if you have any question and you want me to address that on Telerik products, you can anytime reach us and we will do blog on the same on telerikhelper.net. Anytime you can reach me after the webinar regarding any queries, and my email ID is dhananjay.kumar@telerik.com. If you are active on Twitter, then you can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is debug_mode. So that was the introduction part. Now let us set the expectation of the webinar, that what we are going to create today. What I have tried to do, that I have kept application requirement very simple, such that we'll have a full understanding at the end of this webinar that what are the different aspects of hybrid mobile applications, how we can create that. So this is the application which we are going to create. This application is displaying some of your name who are attending today as in audience, and those data we are displaying, and we can create a new audience as well. As you can see on your screen, that application, this is a hybrid application, and this is rendering in an adaptive manner on different kind of devices like iPhone and Android. So we'll see that how Kendo UI Mobile and Icenium helps us to do that without much effort. So this is the architecture of our application, that all that data is in database. We are going to use SQL Server for purpose of this demo. Then we have created a service layer, and using the service layer, application will do talking to database. So a scope of this webinar is not to talk about how we have designed a database for the data. We are not going to even talk about the service layer, that how we have created that, but we are going to see that how we can use the expose service in application to create hybrid applications. Just to add one more point here is that service layer which we are going to consume today is a OData service version 3. So essentially we'll be looking at that how we can build that application which you can see using Kendo UI mobile, and then how we can after the building how we can package that and build that application using Icenium and can submit to any platform like iPhone or Android. Now before we go into the demo part, which we just talked at what we are going to create, let us understand some concept of hybrid application. It might be useful for many of you who does not have any idea on hybrid apps. So there are three types of mobile applications or device applications. One which is very popular and maybe 80 to 90% applications which you use on your devices are the native apps. The other types of app are mobile web apps. Mobile web apps are like your website, your web application is opening on the device in a full browser mode. Browser is rendering that website in a full screen mode. And third types of applications are hybrid application, and that is the scope of this webinar. We'll talk what is hybrid application in great detail today. Now you see that if you want to create a native app for iOS devices, you need to know Objective-C, you need to have a Mac device. If you want to create an Android native application, you need to know Java, and you need to have IDE Eclipse to create Android native applications. And if you want to create a Windows Phone application, you need to know C# and YAML, and you must have Visual Studio to create Windows Phone native applications. And you see on your screen a very interesting equation that imagine you got a requirement to create a very simple application like search on Twitter. And if you want to create native application or native Twitter search application, what roughly you'll have to do is that you'll have to write 100 lines of code for iOS, maybe 100 lines of code for Android, and 100 lines of codes for Windows Phone. And at the end of the day, you are writing 300 lines of code for different devices. Then once you have developed the 300 lines of code, your story does not end there. You have to manage those 300 lines of code also. So tomorrow, if some changes are coming, what all you need to do is that you'll have to go back to Objective-C, change there, then go back to Java, change there, and then again go back to YAML or C# to change the native application behavior of Windows Phone, Android, or iOS. Now, how hybrid app development works. Imagine a scenario that where you really don't need to write these 100 lines of code particular for a platform. Just think that if there are some mechanism or some way that you write one code and that code runs on all the platform. And that types of application is known as hybrid application. Usually we create hybrid application using our own existing knowledge, existing web technologies knowledge, that is JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So main concept of hybrid application development is that you create an application using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Then you deploy that using Cordova. Now what is Cordova? Cordova is popularly known as PhoneGap. And this is an open source library from Adobe. And then you deploy those bunch of codes that is nothing but HTML, CSS, and JavaScript using Cordova on various platforms. So if you are creating your application in this mechanism, that application is known as hybrid applications. If we can simplify the steps to create hybrid application, we can say that first you create your app using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Now again, to create that hybrid application, there are many libraries available, but we will focus on today Kendo UI Mobile, that how Kendo UI Mobile helps you to create your application faster, can help you it abstracts all the complexity behind hybrid application development such that you can focus only on your business requirement. Then you need to build and package the app using PhoneGap. Again, this step 2 looks very simpler, that you can just build and package, but when you do it without using any tool, it is not that easy. So here Icenium comes into the action, and Icenium helps you just in one click or two click that build your application and then package your application and submit it to the App Store for iOS devices, Marketplace for Windows Phone devices, or Google Play for Android devices. Now we have talked enough about hybrid app. Now let us see how hybrid app works. You see, we have one application here. This application is very simple. It is just searching on a particular keyword in the Twitter. And it is fetching some movies information from Netflix. So this application is pretty simple. What it is doing, that it is fetching Twitter on a particular search criteria, and it is fetching Netflix movies information from Netflix movie database on certain criteria. Now what I wanted to show you here is that you see this application, its behavior of the application in iOS app, in a iOS device. It is pretty much looking like a native iOS application. You cannot find out that whether it's a hybrid application or native application by just looking to the or by just using that application. Now if I'll change this, you see that in iOS devices those tab strips are in the bottom, like these tweets and movies, and titles comes on the top. But when you change it to Android device, you see that tab strip is on top and there is no title. So this is very much behavior of an Android device, and how the same application is behaving in the Android device. You can see that how application will behave in an iPad. You see that application is rendering according to the device. What it is doing is that it is detecting that on which device it is running, and according to the device application is rendering itself, and this is known as adaptive rendering. Here Kendo UI Mobile makes your task very easier. You really don't need to worry about how to achieve adaptive rendering, and Kendo UI Mobile will take care of that. Only you need to focus on your business logic. You can see how application will look in Android phone or Android tablet. Now let us take a step back, and you might be thinking that in which IDE or in which simulator I am showing you these different applications. Here in the top, if I go in the top, that you have this, at this portion you have you can choose the device in which you want to see your application running, and I'm changing it from Android tablet to, let us say, iPhone 5. Then I'm changing it to Android phone. So this is this simulator is provided to us by Icenium. When you install Icenium, simulator are there. Icenium allows you to choose the operating system versions as well. So here we have chosen Android. I can choose different operating system of Android, that how my application look in and behave in a particular Android operating system. I can flip. You can see here I can refresh, I can load. So Icenium simulator helps you to not guess, but to really simulate that how your application will behave in the real devices. Because there is since we create a hybrid application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript, so very much we can write those applications just using notepads, but we can write that in notepad, but how to see that how that application will behave in different devices. Because if we don't have a Mac device, we cannot have iOS simulator on Windows machines, and here Icenium comes into that action. So I'll walk through the Icenium little bit here. With the introduction of Icenium, that was second part of our talk today. So Icenium is a cloud-based integrated development environment. When we say cloud-based integrated development environment, means you really don't need to install anything. You can do whole development in a browser, and all your application, all your projects are synced with your credential. So today you are doing a development on this machine, and tomorrow you are going on some another machine. You just log in Icenium with your credential, and you will get all your projects there. And when we say cloud-based integrated development environment, means Icenium does build your application in the cloud. Since it builds your application to the cloud, that is why it does not need anything installed locally. So it can create a package for Windows Store. It can create a package for Google Play. It can create a package for App Store, and all the building of application and packaging of application will be done into the cloud. Done in the cloud. That's why it is known as cloud-based integration development environment. Here, as we see that you can use the skills you have. You can use HTML, JavaScript, CSS to create, and XML to create hybrid applications. Again, you really don't need to install anything on your local machine. You can do development from an iPad. You can do development from anywhere on any device which can open a browser, because everything is happening in the cloud. Again, you can have real-time updates on multiple devices. That if you want to test your application on real devices, what you can do is that using Icenium, you can just plug using the USB, you can connect your device to the development system, and Icenium gives you Icenium got a feature that you can directly deploy that application on the device. Again, you really don't need to guesstimate. You can simulate that how your application will look like. And these are the Icenium features which I'll just quickly touch upon, and then we'll go to the application creation. That Icenium can do live sync. Icenium got a simulator which we just saw. It has the GitHub integration. If you want to share your application, share a project, you can. It has integration with the GitHub. It has the version control. It has the packaging and publishing. Packaging and publishing is just a one click. It has a certificate management. If you have done any Android development before, to create a APK package, you need to have a certificate. You need to install Java runtime, go to command prompt and put this command and put that command to create a certificate. In Icenium, you just say, hey, create a certificate for me, and Icenium will create for you. It got a code editor. It build all your application in the cloud, and it has the web interface development. So here I am going to show you that how Icenium looks. This is Icenium, and this is that application which we are going to create now. This application is pretty simple application we saw in that architecture. That architecture of that application is that it is consuming a service, and service is getting the data and updating the data in the SQL Server database. So backend is a SQL Server. OData service is exposed on that SQL Server database, and to create hybrid application, we are consuming that OData service using Kendo UI, mobile data sources, etc., which we are going to talk now. If you see right now, these name are grouped with the first character of the first name. If you want to change it to group it on city name or the organization name they are working, what all we need to do is we'll go here and we'll say company. Now what I wanted to show you that you don't get puzzled with this much of code. We are going to walk through line by line that how these codes are working. But I wanted to show you that how we changed a code at one place and application will get reflected. This change will get reflected in all types of devices. Here we were grouping that name, we were grouping that contact on the first letter of the first name. But now we are saying that, hey, group the audience in the according to their company name. So save it and say simulator, and you see now that audience are grouped according to their company name. Here we can go to iPhone and see in iPhone also is grouped. So again you saw that we changed code at one place and application, this hybrid application is reflecting on all types of devices. Now we are going to create this application from very scratch, step by step. So this is if you have installed Icenium Graphite on your machine, you'll get this interface. You have another option. If you don't want to install Icenium Graphite, you can do all the development in Icenium Mist as well. Now here we have option to create a new project. Now you can create a new project using, just let me zoom that. You can create a new hybrid application. Either you can choose that blank template, that if you have your own JavaScript library or your own HTML files, your own style sheets, you can start from cross-platform device application. In this, Icenium will not provide you anything. The second option is that you can use a cross-platform device application to create using jQuery Mobile. The third option is that you can choose if you want to use Kendo UI Mobile to create hybrid applications. Now if you right now Icenium is free, it's in beta, you can go and download and use it, and if you buy license of Icenium, Kendo UI Mobile license comes with the license of Icenium itself. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to choose the third option, that is this one, Kendo UI Mobile. Select that and give a name. Okay. As we discussed that Icenium is a cloud-based IDE, does not saves anything locally, like how we do in Visual Studio. If we create any project in Visual Studio, we can go, say, right click and open in Explorer, and all your file you get on your local CDE drive. In Icenium, none of the files you see are locally on your machine. Everything is on the cloud. Now I'll walk through you through the project structure. You see that when we created project using Kendo UI Mobile template, we got these files. One is this index.html. Index.html is where we write all our HTML. You can consider index.html as your view. The second is this styles. In the style we have main.css. And here we'll be writing all our style for the hybrid application. So it's very simple. The same concept it is following as the web development, that your whole view, all HTML will go to the index.html, your style will go to main.css, and your backend code or JavaScript will go in hello world.js. Again, these are the convention which Icenium is following. You are very much free to change all these file names and follow your own convention. Now if you go to Kendo folder, here you'll find that all the required JavaScript files and all the required CSS files for Kendo UI Mobile. Since we have chosen that third types of project template, Icenium has added for us. Now for some of you might be wondering that what is Kendo UI. Now Kendo UI is a JavaScript library which helps you to create web applications and the data visualization, and Kendo UI mobile is a, you can say, subset of Kendo UI web, and it's again a JavaScript library which helps you to create hybrid applications. So if you go here, you can see that you have kendo.mobile.min.js. And you have jquery.min.js also. So Kendo UI mobile is a JavaScript library which helps with another JavaScript library, that is jQuery. Now let us go here. So here we got a project structure. Now if you go and say, right click on the project and say that properties, you can see properties here. In the properties you can configure general properties, you can configure properties for iOS devices, you can configure properties for Android devices, and you can handle the plugins. For iOS devices, you can go here, you can choose the icons, you can choose splash screen, you can choose iPad icons, you can choose iPad splash screen. So here you see that Icenium allows you to perform everything right from the IDE. Here you can go to Android, you can choose the certificate which we were talking. Here I have already created 3 certificates. If you want, you can create a new certificate from here. Or since I have already created that, so I can attach one certificate with this particular application. Then I can change the version, I can choose the hardware acceleration, then I can configure the permissions as well. You see that whether my application need camera, whether my application need vibration, find location, internet, etc. Icenium allows me to choose that as easily as, selecting from the drop down. For my application, I can choose permissions from here, and then again I can choose icons for Android application, and I can choose icons for splash screen for Android application. Now let us say when you creating this, now how to run it. When you create a project using hybrid application using Kendo UI mobile, by default Icenium generates some code which you can use as a reference. So let us go ahead and try to run this code. If we will run, there are 2 options to run in the Icenium, that one in simulator and one on device. If I have attached any device to my development machine, but through USB, this on device will be activated. We can choose that. For this case, let us go to in simulator, and you see that Icenium is running is simulating that application for you. Again, you can go here, you can choose the another device simulator and see how your application behaves. If you want to see the geolocation map and you are working with Google Map, etc., you can simulate that also using Icenium, which you can see in the left. Now let us go here, and you see a lot of code has been generated here. What we are going to do, we are going to delete all the codes which got generated by default. So we deleted a code from index.html. Now let us go to helloworld.js. We deleted this code as well. Now let us go to styles. Delete everything. So now we have a very HTML file, a CSS file, and a .js file which contains nothing, and we are going to write code from very scratch. If you go to index.html, you will find that there are some references added here. Like the first reference is, I'm going from the top, that first reference is script src code.js. That's the 6th line I'm talking now. That is code.js is that phone gap. Phone gap is used to deploy your application and build your application. So Icenium uses phone gap internally to provide you all this feature such that you can focus on your business requirement. Then after there is a reference to jQuery.min.js. After that, you can see in line number 8 that there is a requirement to kendo.mobile.min.js. Now, in further in the demo, we'll see that how Kendo UI would be a very handy and useful for us to manage service call, create data source, create template, etc. Then we don't need that reference, that maps.google.com, because in this particular application we are not going to do any thing with Google Maps. Then you can see that 10th, we are going to delete line number 9. In the 10th line number 10 is reference to the code behind. So we are going to write all the script for this particular application in a file called hello-world.js. After the references of JavaScript files, you can see that there are references to style sheets. First is Kendo mobile style sheet, which will help us in achieving adaptive rendering. So we don't need to write our 100 lines or 200 lines of CSS at how it would look on Android, how application look on iPhone and all that. Kendo UI will take care of that. And then in line number 13 is a style sheet for this particular application, that if we want to give applications a specific style. After that, last line, that is, I'm talking line number, in the body tag we don't have anything but just a script, that is line number 20, 18, 19 and 20. This is very important, and this line says that this particular HTML is not a normal HTML to create a web application, but rather this HTML should be initialized as the HTML for hybrid application. So here we are saying that, hey, we are creating an app on this app using new.kendo.mobile.application, and whole the document body will work as that application will be the part of application. After that, we are giving some features like transition, that when we go from one view to another view, or in other words, you can say that in mobile you have like first view, you select something, you go to the next view, then what would be the behavior of the screen? It can be slide, it can be zoom, anything. Then layout I'm going to explain you now. So this is all about HTML file. This has nothing but these references, and it is initializing it. If you go to hello-world.js, we have nothing in that file. It is just normal, which is just adding a event that if device is ready, then do something. And in our main.css, again, we have nothing. Now let me go and show you something. Now you see here is that in this application you see a title on the top, and you see two options like audience and add audience in the bottom and the tab strip. If you change this to Android, you see that tab strip goes top and there is no title. So this how your application will look like, that combination of header, footer, tab strip is known as application layout. So so first step should be in creating a hybrid application is how layout of the application would be, like how we want our application to look like. For example, if I go here in already created application, and I'm adding one more option in tab strip called remove audience, and save it, and if run, you see there are the third option being added, that is to remove audience. So this is the layout of that application, that what options we want in the tab strip, how header would be, how would be the header, etc. So we need to create first a layout of the application, and we'll create that. In the HTML. Now you see this is the code editor. I can go right click and say format code. Now let us go line by line. that in the 19th line you see that I'm creating a div that is a normal HTML tag, but I'm saying that this div is not a normal div, but it is a layout. So we are setting data role equal to layout. Kendo UI Mobile is taking care of, after setting data role equal to layout, Kendo UI Mobile will take care of everything, that this div is not a normal div, rather it is a layout. Inside that we are saying that we want to display the header. In the header we want a title of the view. In the footer, in the tab history, we are putting three buttons, that is data view audience, data and add audience, and movies. So let me go and remove this movies. We don't want that. Now in a layout there are two important parts, that is header and the footer. In header you decided whether you want to have some back button, you want to display title, etc. In the footer you provide different options. On clicking on selecting those options, user will navigate to different views. In the footer we have put three options. One is for the audience, and we can say view audience, and another is for the add audience, view audience. Now again, how we are creating options or the button in the footer, in the footer tab strip, is that we are creating an anchor tag, that is A, and then we are setting href equal to something. So here this href data view is nothing, is not an address of a web page, rather it is a ID of the view which we are going to create next. Then we are saying that data icon is home, which you see that in the icon when we were running that application. Again, these different data icons are provided by Kendo UI Mobile, and if you want, you can create your custom icon as well. Then the message like view audience, the text which we want to display there, and again line number 29, we are creating another button. On clicking of that button, we will navigate to create view. Action, data icon we have set as action, and text we have set as add audience. So this is the layout. Now we'll go, idea of this layout is app layout. We'll select that, and here in the layout we need to set that as app layout. So now you understand in line number 36 that we are setting the transition style, we are setting application layout, etc. Even though here we are setting application layout at the application level, you can very much set application layout on the view level as well. We have created layout of the application. Now we need to create view. Creating view is very simple. Just create a div. In the div, say data role equal to view. That's it. You have created a mobile view here. Now we need to set that ID, and ID is, we want data view. So this ID will be, ID of this view will be data view, and then we can set data title. And data title is nothing but the title which you see when we are running on our iPhone devices in the on the top. We can see and say view audience. In the same way, we need to create another view because we have two options, and we can say it as a create view. So what we have done here is that we created two view. I'll walk through that. So line number 18, we are creating a div and setting data role equal to view, and then setting that ID as data view. In the footer, you can see we have set a href data view. So this, when we click on that option, we'll be navigated to this particular view, and then we are setting data title, that is view audience. Then again we are getting second view, that is line number 22, and setting ID as the create view. As of now, we are just displaying one message, view odd and audience and create audience. Now let us go ahead, save it and run it. You see right now when we choose an option from the bottom, we are going to different views. So what we have done so far, that we have created a layout of that application. If you run this in Android devices, You see how application is rendering according to the Android device. You can see that how application will behave in an iPad. And you see that when we navigating from one view to another view, that transition style, which we also set in the script of mobile initialization. And here again, let us go back to theory, that we are writing one code and the same code is running on different types of devices, and that is why it is known as hybrid applications or cross-platform mobile applications. So we have created a layout, we have created a view. Now let us go ahead and create the data source, because we want to display some data here, and we can create the data source. Now this is my service. If you are aware that how OData works or how a REST-based service works, you can see that on this particular URL, I can access the service and my service is returning this data. So let us go ahead. In the code behind. And what I have done here is that I'm just defining 3 variables that on that particular URL read the data, on line number 12 on that particular URL create the data when we'll insert the data, and then one variable which we'll be using to create data source. Next we'll create data source here like this. Now how we are creating data source? We are creating data source using Kendo UI data source. Kendo UI got Kendo UI framework is having data source, template, validation, etc. So we are creating a data source here using Kendo UI data source. To create a data source using Kendo UI data source, only you need to say new Kendo.DataSource. After that, you need to set the property. Here we are going to read a service which is and type of that service is OData. So we are setting type equal to OData. Then we are saying endless scroll equal to true, so that if we scroll, data will get updated. And saying batch false, we are saying that fetch me all the data at one time. Then in line number 19, we are creating a transport. In the transport, we are giving the instruction that read the data from that particular URL. And again, data type is JSON-P, and this is to handle that cross-domain service call. And in the data line number 24, we are setting that the data which we are going to accept would be of type JSON. So again, line number 14, we are creating a data source. Line number 16, we are setting type of the data source, that is OData type. It is going to read data from a OData service. Then in line number 19, we are creating a transport. Line number 20, we are setting the read attribute of transport. Line number 21, we are providing that service URL which we set in line number 11. Then we are setting data type equal to JSON-P, data type equal to JSON, data type as JSON-P. We need to set when we are to handle this cross-domain service call. And in line number 25, we are setting that we are going to accept the JSON type of data. So here we have created a data source. What we have done, we have created data source. Next, we need to have a control in which we want to display that data. And we'll create that control in the HTML. So go here to data view, select format code. Now here you see that how we are creating a list view. List view is a control to display a large amount of data, which we can scroll. So you see that contact, etc. On your phone. Those are actually a list view. So here to create a list view in Kendo UI Mobile, you need to create an UL element, an ordered list, and in that set data role property equal to list view. Line number 20. Excuse me. Line number 20, we are setting data role is list view. So we are telling that this unordered list is not a normal UL element, rather it is a Kendo UI list view. Then we are setting data source. So this list view will read data from AUD data. You can see line number 21. And then in line number 22, we are setting data template. Data template will talk just after this, and the data style as the inset. And in previous step, we created a data source called AUD data here, and we are setting this data source in the line number here, line number 21. So we have created a control. We have a data now. That data source is reading data from a service and it is handling everything. We have a control in which we are going to display the data. Now we have data, we have control. Now we need to decide that how we want to display the data, and this how part is known as a templating of the data. So we need to create a template. That's what you saw in line number 22, that we are setting. In line number 22, we are setting data template as a data template. So we need to create this data template, and it will say that how data will be displayed. So let us go ahead and create a template quickly. Again, Icenium code editor is very handy here. So how we are creating a data template? To create a data template, you need to create a script and say type as text x Kendo template, and you can give an ID of that template which we are setting in line number 22. You just saw. After that, it's pure HTML that how you want to display the data. So I am saying I want to display first name and last name. Again, this first name and last name which we are talking, line number 30 and line number 31, company and city. These are the columns name of which is being and the field name which is being returned from the service. I'm saying that I want to display first name and last name as h3 in the h3 tag, and we are putting some class there for the CSS styling, and then item info class for company and city. So it's pretty simple creating a template. It's pure HTML and CSS. And then we are having a button as well there, which is the contact button. So what we have done here is that in step 1 we created a data source using Kendo DataSource, and here we focused on our business requirement to fetch the data from that URL, rather than how to handle cross-domain, how to create transport, how to handle batch processing, etc. We just set the parameter like type OData, we set batch false, we set read URL as something for cross-domain. In line number 22, we set data type as JSON-P. So using Kendo UI data source, it is as simple as this to create a data source, handling all these complex requirements. In the HTML file, again, we created a control that is list view control, and to create that, from line number 18 to line number 24, what we have done, line number 19 to line number 24, that we created a UL element, and we set the data role property as list view, we set the data source as AUD data. Again, here we are setting data source and data template at the design time. If you want, you can very much set it in the JavaScript as well. And we are setting the data style. Again, from line number 28 to line number 34, that is, we are creating a Kendo template, and that template is nothing but combination of HTML and CSS, which will decide like how data will be rendered in that particular control. Now, this first name, last name, company, and city, this is purely related to this application, and the field name which is being returned from the service. So to display a dynamic value, what you need to do is that hash and then equal to sign, then the column name or field name, then again hash. So in runtime it will get replaced by the real value. Now we have a created template. Now let us go ahead and run it. Now you see that we are getting the data here from the database, and you see that right now it is not styled. We'll do the styling, but you can notice one thing here is that that behavior of contact button, that it is very much Android kind of button. If you go to iPhone, it is very much iPhone kind of button. And again, we have done not a single code to handle this. This is the adaptive rendering, and Kendo UI Mobile take care of that very effectively. You can see how your application look in a iPad, and the buttons are of different kind. Now, imagine if we have a business requirement in that we want to do some styling of our application, and we'll do that in the main.css, and we'll put some CSS here. And again, I'll walk through the CSS that we are saying that it's very pretty simple, that we are saying for that particular data view, that item title class which we are using should have this font size, should have this line height, margin, etc. So point what I'm trying to make here is that I'm using my existing CSS skills to create a hybrid application. This is completely CSS, does not matter whether you are writing this CSS for a web application or a hybrid mobile application. Here we have put some design, go in the simulator, and now you see that we are getting the data as we want. Now there could be one question to you, that in the demo application which we saw in the beginning of the webinar, that these data were grouped. Now how to group that? If you are going to handle that without Kendo DataSource or without Kendo UI, it is not as easy as it would be now, how I'm going to show you. So to handle the grouping, what all I need to do is that I'll go to code here. I just say group and field is, and I'm giving an instruction to the data source that, hey, I want my data to be grouped on the basis of that particular field. Now if I go and run that, you see now data are grouped. So you see that how easy it is to group your data as well. If I want, I can change it to some other field. I guess city is a field there, and I run that. You see now fields are, contacts are grouped on basis of the city. So what we have done in the first view, I'll summarize that again, is that we created a data source. We saw that how we can set transport, how we can handle cross-domain, how we can consume different kind of service by setting the type parameter, which is line 16. Then we can set different kind of data, that is JSON XML, by setting that accept parameter in the data of data attribute. Then we can group just by setting that group. In the HTML, we created a list view. And then we created a template, and we just set data role, data source with the ID of the data source which we created, and data template with the ID of the data with the template we created, and we are getting a running data here. Now, if you are aware of OData, you see these data. OData, you can access our OData in browser itself. You see these are the data which we are getting in our mobile application as well, with this minimum amount of code. Now let us go ahead and create our second view, that now we are going to create, we are going to add an audience. For that, what we'll do, very first, let us create a field. So this is very simple. It is just for the styling purpose. Format code. What I'm doing here is that I'm creating again a UL, and here I'm not binding it. I'm not binding this list view to any data source or any template. I'm manually putting all the elements in this list view, and my purpose was to show you that as well. And here I'm setting just a first name and that input. HTML input control to take the input from the user, then input for the last name, city, and organization. And there is a button in the line number 60 you can see, and on click of that button will save data to the server. So we have created a view. If we go and run it, we can see that we have view now. And again, it is pretty much iPhone. We have done nothing. If you go to Android, you see that button and this input box are completely Android specific. So we cannot find out whether it's a hybrid application or native application, and we are not writing a single line of code to handle this. Now let us go ahead and put some styling. In the CSS. Now if you run it, you see that now this button color has been changed. So we wanted to have same color of background color for button in the both in all types of devices. So we put some CSS. Again, that CSS is very simple. Now if you go back here in the HTML, you see in line number 60 that on click event of this button, we are calling a function called save data. And so we need to write this function in JavaScript, and we can write that here. Now I wanted to show you something that how we can debug that in Icenium as well, which I'll show you now. Just to show that how we can debug, I wanted to show you one thing here. Let me go on the top and write one more function here. I have just written one more function called function show OData, and I'm going to call this function on, and this is the div which you see that I'm in line number 18. There's attribute, you can say data show. So whenever this view will be visible, will come into that action, that function which is set as the data show will be executed. So what we have done is that we are saying that whenever this view is coming, is visible and user is navigating to this particular view, execute a function called show OData. And in show OData function, what I'm doing, in the show OData function, I'm doing nothing. I'm just fetching the data from the data source and doing console.log, such that I can show you that how debugging can happen, how you can do debugging in Icenium. So let us go ahead at this point of time and run the application. Now we are running that application. So when we will navigate to this particular view, that show OD function have called here. Now you see from the bottom, I can debug my application. I go to console here. I can go to resource. Here I can see all local storage. If I am saving something on the HTML local storage, I can see in the network. If we are making some call here, we can come here. We can see in the network. Then in the scripts, we can see how the scripts, if there are, if we want to put some breakpoint, we can select the script from here and can put breakpoint, etc. Now, so far what we have done, that we have created a view here, and on click of this particular button, we want to save a data. So we need to write some code in the save data function, and we'll write that. So essentially we are going to create one more data source, and that data source will help us to create the record in the database. I'll walk through again. It's pretty simple that here again we are creating a data source using new Kendo DataSource, and we are setting the type of data, again setting the transport. But here we are in the transport, rather than read, we are setting that create parameter. If you see line number 48, in the create parameter we are setting that URL of the service, the type of operation which we are going to do is insert, that is the type is post here. We are saying data type which we will send will be JSON, and the content type is application JSON OData verbose. Now this OData verbose we are using because we are using OData version 3. If you are using OData version 2, you don't need to put OData verbose in content type. After that, from line number 56 to line number 79, we are creating the schema of the data. We are creating the schema of the data which we will be submitting, which will be inserting to the database. So here you can see that again is pretty simple, that in the schema we are saying, in the schema we are creating the data model. In the data model we are saying that these are the fields which we are going to insert, that first name, last name, city, company and GRP field, and all are string here. It can be number, it can be date, as per the type of your column. So here we have created the schema. After that, what we need to do is that we need to create the record to insert, and we can create the record here again. In record, what we are doing is that in line number 91 to 95, we are just reading those values using jQuery from the HTML elements, like first name text.val, last name text.val. So it's completely again pure HTML, which we are using HTML and our knowledge of JavaScript and jQuery to in creating hybrid application. So here we are reading the data. After that, we need to submit the record. So what we have done here is that we have created a data source, which you saw in the top. Then we are creating the item need to be inserted, and then from line number 99 to line number 100, what we are doing is that we are adding this particular element here. We are adding this element which we created to insert into the data source, and next what we are doing is that we are syncing the data source using the service to the backend. So these two lines are mainly to add the item to the data source and then sync the data, the local Kendo data source with the server. That's it. And after submitting the record, we want to display some status message that record has been inserted, sorry. And again, this is pretty simple HTML. In that we are just setting that val and all, we are clearing the fields there and setting that update message. Now if we go here and run it again, we are here, and let us say I'm just choosing some name. ABC. So now when we create, what it would do in the backend, that data source will get fired. It will then add that item to the data source and then sync this to the external data source. You see that we got a message successfully inserted. And here we got options as well. So here I was talking about the debugging. You see here you can debug that how many data is returning from the server. You can see each individual object in the data. You can see how the resources are working, how the network are working, etc. here itself. So if we create one more record here, let us say, and we say create. You see here in the network that Icenium is making a call to the service, and we are getting the status 201 created. So Icenium allows you to do all the debugging from the ID itself. Now come back to here, and we just created two records. We should be able to see that. And if you want to see that whether those record got created or not, let us go to the database. I should not open this, but I just wanted to show you that we created a data source here, that record number 35 and record number 36, Praveen and ABC from a hybrid application. So to summarize it, just from a hybrid application, we called a service, we used a Kendo data source to create a data source and make a call to OData service, and that OData service internally is talking to the SQL Server database and doing the task for us. So this is what all I had for as a demo for today's webinar. Let us go back to our presentation. And here we talked about these features. So now if I go to the Icenium feature, we saw the simulator, we saw version control, we saw code editor, we saw build on cloud, we saw web interface development, certificate management. Now let us say we want to submit this application to App Store or Google Play. How we can do that? That is very simple to do. Let us go to again Icenium. Here first you need to go here and say version control and commit. You can commit all the tasks which you done to the server. And here you see that you get the change track and everything. You can save version 1, commit. So we committed that to the server. Now if you want, we can push it and pull it to the GitHub. For that we go select right click version control and configure remote repository. Here you need to give the repository name of your GitHub, and then after providing that you can push the whole project to GitHub. So I'm going to push this whole project to GitHub such that you can download it and use it after the webinar. Then again we want to publish that. Let us go to publish, go to Google Play. I have not set the certificate for for iPhone, that's why you are getting this error. For Google Play I set the certificate. If you remember in the beginning, I just select Google Play and I'll say build. It will start building and packaging my application, and just on one click it will give me that APK package. If you have done Android development, APK package what we submit to Google Play to publish our application. So within a minute it will give us the APK package for this particular application. We can submit it to the Google Play, and that would be like we have created an Android application. And in the bottom you can see it is providing you the messages like build and download application package and the steps which Icenium is doing to create the APK package. And here you see that now Icenium is prompting you that where you want to save the APK package. Let us say I'm calling it test2. On the desktop I'm saving it, and your package is ready for submission. Now if you go, and here is a package which we just created. Just log into your Google Play and submit this, and you have created an Android application. The same way it will allow you to build and package and then download a package for the iPhone which you can submit to App Store. So let us go to our presentation back. Why it starts from here? I wanted to show you that we saw that how live sync works, how simulator works, how GitHub integration works, how version control works, how packaging and publishing works. That's really cool. How certificate management works, how code editor works, and how building on cloud works. Now we use Kendo UI Mobile as the technology to create those hybrid applications. In Kendo UI, it is again JavaScript library. I'll just go native UI on every device. So rather than talking, I've shown you that how it is on it. Kendo UI gives you native UI on every kind of devices. It is ready for App Store, which you saw using PhoneGap, and Kendo UI framework got DataSource, which we used heavily. In our demo application, we used model, we used template. We did not use MVVM, we did not use drag and other options which you can use as per your business requirement. Then Kendo UI mobile widgets. So we use, these are the mobile widgets available, but we use only 2 or 3 of that. We used view, we used a list view. That's it. So we use actually 2. And this was again going back to our application. This was the architecture of our application, that database, service layer, and that application. We have already written many codes, and these are the resources. So I am done. I'll take your question one by one. Before that, these are the resources. If you are interested, you can go to icenium.com. You can read the documentation. You can download and you can play with Icenium. For Kendo UI, you can go to kendoui.com. And for documentation, docs.kendoui.com and docs.icenium.com. Then for how-to videos or how-to blog posts, you can go to telerikhelper.net. If you're on Twitter, we share all the resources, all our webinar information, and everything on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter for Telerik, that is @Telerik. For specific to Kendo UI, that is Kendo UI @Kendo UI, and for Icenium, that is @Icenium.